right. So I'm all caught up with recent events as of late, within the time frame of June of 2025, obviously. And so I figure I'll just get right to the topics. Um, I'm going to save a topic specifically for the last part of the video, and that is relating to the future of this channel in terms of content and my commitment and why I've really been gone for a whole year. I'll get to that point. But anyways, hello guys, this is Alucard. It's been a while, so I figured I'd really get into a few topics. I'm not gonna go in too much detail, because obviously there's gonna be as little editing as possible in this video, as well as an unscripted video as well. Nothing here is scripted in this section, or really the whole video. So I figured first thing we got to talk about is the state of the game industry, what's happened during the summertime showcases. I'm going to skip Sony State of Play for this situation, because I find State of Play disappointing no matter what. They'll have like a couple of games that interest me from time to time, but honestly, it's such a disappointment. Excuse me, such a disappointment that I just can't really be bothered to really talk about Sony. I'm just in general, I'm just disappointed with the company. As for other short showcases, let's start with Summer Games Fest for 2025. Honestly, this year was okay. I honestly, in terms of presentation, I'd give it an F. But in terms of what they showed, I'd say like a C. There wasn't really much that interested me for Summer Games Fest. And I'm not really going to get into too much detail of why certain things I'm not looking forward to or certain things that I am looking forward to. But I'll pretty much bring up a list here and discuss like several things that actually interested me. First thing first is Mortal Shell 2. I've heard things about the first game. I heard it had a rocky start when it first came out, and then eventually got better over time. But I never really played Mortal Shell. It always looked interesting, but I never really got into it. Mortal Shell 2 obviously just looks fantastic. Very much Souls-like in terms of like design and aesthetic. But I'm willing to take a look at it. I don't really know much about it. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach is another one I'm very excited with. I've been a huge Hideo Kojima fan for a very long time, especially with the Metal Gear series, and I've played Death Stranding 1 all the way through with the PS4 version. Planning on upgrading the PS5 version and playing through it all over again before Death Stranding 2 comes out, which should be coming out 10 days from now as the recording of this video. It's June 16th right now. So fairly close. I really thoroughly enjoyed Death Stranding. When it comes to Death Stranding, you know, because of the whole walking simulator thing, you know, you're gonna have people who don't like it, obviously, but then you're gonna have people like me who like it because I'm very familiar with Kojima's games. Very much looking forward to it. They showed a trailer, another trailer really, at Summer Games Fest, and there was a separate live stream dedicated to Death Stranding 2 specifically, where they showed a bit more footage, and I believe Kojima is currently in the process of making one last trailer before the game comes out. Not entirely sure if I want to watch it yet or not, because I don't know if I'm hoping it doesn't spoil too much, but you never know. Even with Kojima, if he spoils anything, the plot's so confusing that you have to experience the game to understand it. But I'm sure it'll be good. That's Death Stranding 2 is probably one of my big highlights for Summer Games Fest. Sonic Racing Crossworlds was interesting to me. I've always enjoyed the Sonic racing games, but I really haven't, how do I put it? I haven't really expressed too much fascination with that game series. I've always liked Sonic. I'm not a huge mega nerd about it, but I've loved the games since I was a kid with the Sega Genesis. And this one in particular seems to be very different in how it's advertising itself as a game compared to past entries. In past entries, you would get all these courses and whatnot, and you would also get all the Sonic characters at the time, as well as certain Sega characters like Beat from Jet Set Radio, and I forgot that one girl from Space Channel 5, and a few other characters, but it never really stuck with me. But all of a sudden, they make this like cross-dimensional type of theming with Crossworlds. So it's like different ring portals, similar to how they show it in the movies, for the live-action Sonic movies. And not only do they showcase all these courses and all these characters from Sonic, but this time around with the Sega characters that they're introducing, they introduced Hatsune Miku from Vocaloid. Technically, it's not a Sega property, but Vocaloid has like a contract, I guess, with Sega for the Project Diva games. So that's how she got in. I was not expecting that at all. And then they also added Ichiban Kasuga from the Yakuza series, which was really cool, surprising even. I didn't think a mature rated game character from Sega's IP list would end up on this game, but I would assume because of how wacky Yakuza can be, they just felt like it was a perfect fit. Though I do hope in the future they add Kiryu Kazuma and Goro Majima to that roster. I don't know for sure if that'll happen, but you never know. And in another big surprise addition was Joker from Persona 5. Huge Persona 5 fan, obviously. Persona fan in general, really. I'm not sure if they're planning on adding more Persona characters, but at this point, who knows? Because they introduced two different kinds of passes. One with a bunch of free content, and which included those three characters I just mentioned, as well as their cars and music and tracks and all sorts of things like that. But they also introduced a paid season pass, which so far they've only revealed one content for that pass, which was the introduction of Minecraft, minecart vehicle, 3 characters from Minecraft, and a Minecraft racetrack, which was a big shock as well. The crowd at Summer Games Fest exploded. It was a great time. They also expanded on it by saying that the game would have cross-play matchmaking, which at the same time they also jabbed Mario Kart with the by talking about that, going unlike another kart racing game, our game's gonna have cross-platform matchmaking. That was really cool, and I'm honestly excited. It comes out in September. I mean, what could you ask for? Code Vein 2 is another one that interests me. I did not expect a sequel to Code Vein. I haven't played Code Vein. I do have it, but I haven't really got around to playing it. I might have to do that soon. But Code Vein 2 was a huge surprise. I don't know too much about Code Vein, so I can't really comment too much on the sequel. Mouse PI for Hire is that 1930s black and white animation first-person shooter. It looks very interesting. I don't really know too much about it. I try to stay away from this game as much as possible so I can go in blind when it comes out and I play it. And I think there's still no release date, but I don't know for sure on that one. What else on this list? Felt the Boxing. It's like a Punch-Out style arcade game with like a Jim Henson style puppetry. I don't know if they used real puppets or if they used Unreal Engine 5. Either way, it would be impressive to me. So I'm actually kind of interested if it's specifically Punch-Out style or if they're mix and matching and adding different styles to it. We'll see when it comes out. I don't know when it comes out, but I'm very interested. It just looks wacky and hilarious. So, hey, what can you ask for? I think that's it. I'm still scrolling down here. Still scrolling down. Mecha Break is another one that looks interesting. The new trailer was pretty cool. Professional wrestler Kenny Omega basically cosplayed as 4 DLC characters for Street Fighter 6. I haven't played Street Fighter 6 yet, so I can't really comment on that. All I can really comment on is how hilarious that advertisement was. Kenny Omega is just a complete goofball who loves video games and comics and all that. So I knew this would be something up his alley, knowing who he is behind the scenes in his personal life. But yeah, that really surprised me. I didn't really care for the DLC specifically, but it was a highlight because of Kenny Omega. I mean, what can you say? It's Kenny Omega. The only other games, there's 2 other games. So Ryoko Gotoku, I don't know how to say that correctly, so if I messed that up, oh well. They showed off a game called Stranger Than Heaven, taking place in the 1940s in Japan. I'm willing to bet, I don't know for sure, but I'm willing to bet it's a spin-off of the Yakuza series. Would not surprise me. It's the setting in the trailer was Sotenbori, the fictional version of the real life Dotonbori in Japan, and Sotenbori is obviously part of the Yakuza series as a location. So I'm willing to bet it's a spin-off. I'm hoping it is. If it's not, that's a shock, but I'll still probably play it because it's the same devs as Yakuza. So, and then they ended the show with Resident Evil 9 Requiem. I don't know where this is going to be taking place in the story. I am excited. I still need to play Village, surprisingly. But I don't really know too much about what was shown on this trailer. All I know is Raccoon City is part of the problem in the story, and that's really all I know. I'm gonna wait and see. I really don't know what's gonna happen with that. But that's really about it for Summer Games Fest. All right, so this is my 3rd take for this part of the video. So this take in particular was about the Xbox showcase. I went into great detail on my thoughts of the presentation, the games shown that I was interested in, and I was also going to talk about disappointments about how I feel about Xbox as a whole. Well, unfortunately, I ran into a tech issue, that being low storage space. I ended up having to completely get rid of the corrupted data that came of the first take, and then I had to do a lot of storage cleansing, basically just get rid of whatever I didn't really need anymore that's just been sitting on my PC. Got rid of it, got some storage space, so I'm good to go. I started to do take 2 of the segment, and my program crashed. So now I'm doing a third take. And because of all these technical hiccups, I was in daytime when I did the Summer Games Fest portion, and now it's night right now on the same day. So it is what it is. But I'm not going to get into details like I did in the first 2 takes in regards to what I liked and what games interested me, but there was a few things that worried me. So one of them being Persona 4 Revival. While I'm okay with the idea in theory of a remake for Persona 4, I don't think it's necessary. Now, the reason why I don't think it's necessary is because it's not the same situation as Persona 3 Reload. For Persona 3 Reload, we ended up needing a remake of that game because Persona 3 was much more unreachable compared to 4. And what I mean by that is, like, modern releases of Persona 3 might, aside from well, let me rephrase that. There haven't been any modern re-releases of Persona 3 or Persona 3 FES. Instead, we've gotten Persona 3 Portable ported to modern consoles and PC and whatnot. Problem with this is Persona 3 Portable's not a great version of Persona 3. Matter of fact, I believe Persona 3 FES is the best version before the remake. So the remake just remade the original Persona 3, and then they added a lot of FES content into it as well. And then they did the answer from FES in a expansion DLC. So, you know, they did that. I thought it was a really good remake. The music was good. I just was a little upset with the replacement of the original singer, though Lotus Juice is still there. As for the recasting and localization, my biggest problem with anime and games of today coming from the Asian market is that you'll have these political activists as localizers, or I call them lolcalizers, who do whatever they can to adjust, and by adjust I mean change drastically from the original script that's in Japan, to the point where they're trying to adapt it to the culture of the country that it releases in. And that's never been necessary, and I don't know why it's been thought of as necessary. That's probably one of my biggest gripes about Persona 3 Reload. And then on top of that, the casting. The casting, in my opinion, didn't really need to happen. The casting was fine the way it was in the original games. And the only reason I believe that they did casting change was because they couldn't bring back Vic Mignogna. Even though I believe Vic Mignogna deserves to be part of that whole remake situation. But they didn't want to stick to just one recast, so they ended up recasting the whole cast And then some of the original cast still stayed on in the game, voicing other characters. Now you got Persona 4. Persona 4, in my opinion, didn't really need a remake because you got Persona 4 Golden. That's the best experience you're going to get in terms of Persona 4, and it's available on all modern platforms, whereas in the past, it was a PlayStation Vita exclusive. However, with that in mind, comes the issues that I've addressed with Persona 3 Reload for this game. With the localization, they're going to change a lot of things. I know that they're going to plan on doing that, and that's what worries me, because unfortunately, there is this misconception that there's a trans character and a poorly written gay character in the game. Now, I can definitely tell you that the only way someone can come to that conclusion about the game's narrative is one of two things. One, they didn't play the game, so they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Or two, they did play the game, but they completely misunderstood the messaging in the game. Because the messaging in the game did not say this character's trans, or this character's gay, or whatever. You have to pretty much play the game, pay attention to the dialogue, and you'll end up realizing that it's not as it seems. I can't really say too much because that would be spoilers, because I think everyone should experience Persona 4 Golden. And then recasts, we don't have a really big confirmation on recasts for Persona 4 Revival. But before Persona 4 Revival was even announced at the Xbox Showcase, Yuri Lowenthal, who voiced Yosuke Hanamura in Persona 4, as well as Erica Fitzgerald, I believe that's her name, who voiced Chiesa Tanaka in Persona 4. They both said they were not approached for being cast as the characters that they were in the original games for, at least for the remake. That kind of worries me. Because in my mind, out of all the Persona games, when it comes to English casting, Persona 4 had the perfect casting. But I digress. Other things that really bothered me about the Xbox showcase was the announcement of a new Asus ROG called Asus ROG Xbox Ally X. The mouthful, I know. It's basically just a partnership with Asus and Xbox to create a handheld Xbox system, but in my mind, it's a little too late to really bring something like that to the forefront, because I don't think Xbox realizes that the handheld market just doesn't exist for the general consumer today, with the exception of the Switch. Because, with the 3DS and the Vita gone, all there really is the Switch. And the Switch is not even a full-fledged handheld, it's a hybrid console, meaning it's handheld and home console. So, a true handheld experience isn't going to be there. But the Asus ROG Xbox Ally X is also going to be considered a hybrid console, even though it's not really a console, it's technically a handheld PC. But I couldn't really tell you anything about the Asus ROG and my thoughts on it. Never really had one. Same with the Steam Deck. It's just, I look at it, both impress me, but I can't really comment too much on it. But yeah. And then they announced Silk Song as a launch title for the Ally X. I don't have any faith in Silk Song after all this time of waiting. Because it's been delayed and it's been a joke because the running gag of Silk Song is that it'll never come out. So if they come out for real this year and it's underperforming compared to the previous Hollow Knight game, it's gonna show that delay, that long delay for Silk Song was for nothing. And that's my opinion. I don't know how that will turn out for real. That's just how I feel it'll turn out. Who knows? But another thing that really irritated me about the Xbox showcase was the announcement of Black Ops 7, which, let's be fair, not many people give a damn about Call of Duty these days. And if people deny what I just said, they are coping really hard, because Call of Duty is trash. It's been trash for a long time. But my biggest problem with the Call of Duty announcement is not that it was announced, because if they wanted to announce it, that's fine. But they made it the last thing to show at the showcase. They shouldn't have done that. They should have given us something more. Like, I guarantee you, people would have much rather been interested in another trailer or maybe some gameplay footage of Gears of War E-Day. But that's just me. Overall, that's how it is. I just felt disappointed. I always feel disappointed with these showcases. They're just not enough risk taking. It's always the easy thing that they're working on. They're just playing it safe, and I'm not really a fan of that. Xbox used to be the risk takers because they were the new dog in town back in the day. And they kept taking risks, and they succeeded here and there. And I just don't understand the direction that it's going in. I think the thing about Xbox is Xbox clearly does not give a damn about consoles, because they made the Series X, which arguably I believe is far superior on a technological level than a PS5. But let's be fair here. Not really enough games. And I'm not really making the argument of who has more exclusives or not. The argument I'm having is that they care so little about appeasing the people who bought their console by just giving them games. If it means getting exclusives, fine, whatever. But they don't really care for the exclusivity part anymore, which is a shame, because when they did do exclusivity, they pumped out a lot of great games. I just remember the past when it comes to Xbox, when they used to make games like Halo and Gears of War and Fable and all of that, back when those were good IPs. Nowadays, those IPs aren't really anything to care about, because they've milked them to death, to the point where they pretty much lost the soul of what made those games great. And I don't know, I think the biggest problem is with the leadership. I think Phil Spencer, for all he's done, after the whole Don Matrick mess back in 2013, and then Phil Spencer took over, I thought Phil Spencer was doing a good job at the time, and he did. He delivered on a lot of things people wanted, including backwards compatibility, crossplay, Game Pass, all that stuff. But over time, he stopped focusing on what people wanted and focused on what investors wanted. And I didn't understand why he shifted that hard in a different direction. But I don't know. I mean, to this day, I'm still mad about the backwards compatibility program being ended, because I have a couple more original Xbox titles physically that I can't even play on any of the newer consoles because they didn't get added to the program, like Jet Set Radio Future and Bloodwake, for example. Those games still did not show up. I don't think Dead or Alive 3 even made it. Not to my knowledge. So, I don't know, it was very short-lived. And it didn't really make much sense that they would just ignore a lot of popular games back in the day. And then Phil Spencer is getting into the whole political thing, talking about pride and trans and diversity, as if that any of that matters to core gamers. Core gamers don't give a damn about that. Core gamers care about a good game that they want to spend their money on. Then we come to the Game Pass situation. The Game Pass situation, at first, was a great idea. Unfortunately, you come to find out that Game Pass hurts sales of games when they release on day one on Game Pass. And the convenience of Game Pass would mean people would rather go on Game Pass and play a brand new game that comes out rather than go and buy it. So it really makes the devs suffer financially. Yes, they're going to get some money for having their game on Game Pass, but they would have had much more money if they instead sold their game. But, and I'm losing my train of thought, but, yeah, that's the direction that it's going. And unfortunately, it gets even worse because now game prices are going up to around $80. And those that aren't $80 are still $70. And physical games are fizzling out even harder than they were the past 5-10 years now. And we saw this recently with Doom: The Dark Ages. Doom: The Dark Ages on Xbox and PlayStation do not have a physical disc included in the box. Matter of fact, when I say that, I'm obviously being a little bit more facetious on that fact, because in reality, there is a disc. It's just the game is not contained in the disc. So with the failure of physical games, you'll see a game like Doom: The Dark Ages where it underperformed sales-wise, under 1 million. I believe the last time I looked at it, I don't know the current number, but the last time I looked at it, the sales numbers were around 800,000. And you can there's plenty of examples why Doom: The Dark Ages failed, even if Doom: The Dark Ages is a great game. For one is the physical release botching for Xbox and PlayStation. A lot of people who found out the hard way or prior to pre-ordering found out that the game is not contained on disc. So a lot of people canceled their pre-orders. And then you've got the fact that the game, for the most part, is going to be digital, which digital is still a licensing thing, and you don't technically own the game you buy on digital, because it's basically a renter's license at that point, because anytime the server goes down, boom, your fucking game is gone, boy. Well, then you add PC issues with things like Denuvo being part of it. And there's a huge distrust among gamers when it comes to Denuvo, because it hinders on performance. And not a lot of people can really utilize Denuvo without causing a problem. But even then, it still causes a problem for lower end machines. Not lower end as in like potato PCs, but lower than like the current high specs. So, it's definitely like selective choosing when it comes to what kind of gamers are able to play a game. Then you got Game Pass. Doom the Dark Ages, I believe, was on Game Pass, and on top of the physical sales hurting Doom the Dark Ages, you also have a situation with Denuvo, where people refuse to buy the game because of Denuvo, and then you have Game Pass, which not a lot of people want to spend a lot of money on Game Pass because we all know Game Pass is going to increase in price. And on top of that, we have the situation with the fact that, devs are not getting paid enough through Game Pass as well. So obviously, id Software and Bethesda, they're not going to make that much money from the game. That's going to cause a problem. And that's really the state of things for the industry as a whole. I don't know why Xbox thinks anything they're doing is a great idea, and I don't know why companies like PlayStation and Nintendo are following suit in this, because unfortunately, instead of passion in the industry, we're getting greed in the industry. And yes, this is not a new thing. Greed has been a big problem in the gaming industry for like decades at this point, but it just gets worse year by year, and at this point it's at the most atrocious levels of greed that I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm honestly very worried, because if things continue to escalate into this problematic path that the industry has set itself upon, we're gonna eventually see another video game crash. Some people don't believe that'll be a thing. I disagree. I think that'll definitely happen if things don't course correct. And there's really not much time left for that course correction, because if the course correction comes too late, we're done. We're cooked. And so we would have to find a way to take risk again and bring the gaming industry back from a second video game crash. So yeah, that's all I got to say about Xbox and really the industry as a whole. And to wrap up my my video game sort of coverage for this video before I move on to other topics, I'm going to quickly address Nintendo. Nintendo has definitely faced a lot of controversy over the years with their happy trigger finger when it comes to court issues, as well as all the corporate greed behind how they sell their games, the price increase that technically they didn't start. Well, the $70 baseline was started by PlayStation and Xbox, and now it's Nintendo moving it towards the $80 range. And this is, I don't know. I remember a time when Nintendo was a much more family-friendly company, and they actually cared about their customer like their family. And for whatever reason, they just lost their way. It's already bad enough that companies like Nintendo are like 10 steps behind to modern trends that happen outside of Japan. But it's even worse when they are adopting DEI practices and all this other garbage that I believe Doug Bowser has a play in. Doug Bowser, I just never understood why he was chosen. I think it was a misstep on Reggie's part. And genuinely, I don't think he knew that was going to be a bad decision at the time. And I can tell that he kind of regrets that decision. Knowing that Doug Bowser is a former EA exec, well, it kind of makes sense why Doug Bowser has been an atrocious leader for Nintendo, especially Nintendo of America. I just believe that everything bad that's been happening from Nintendo of Japan all the way to the rest of the world that they service as customers, I think Doug Bowser is influencing them. That's just my theory. The Switch 2 controversy, I don't really understand why they did what they did with the Switch 2. It's a very divisive console. I have no interest in purchasing a Switch 2. It's just not worth it. There's not really much of an upgrade because it's not really a sequel console or anything like that. It's just an upgraded Switch 1 at this point. I don't understand, because you hear all these negative things about the Switch 2 and Nintendo, and then you get all these Nintendo fanboys who will buy it anyways and be hypocrites and calling out Nintendo despite spending money on a Switch 2. It's just, to me, it's hypocrisy, it's FOMO, and it's sunk cost fallacy mixed into a single concoction. That's what this whole situation is with Nintendo fanboys. And unfortunately, the only way to combat it is to vote with your wallet. Don't spend on anything. And if they don't make enough money, Nintendo won't learn from their lesson. And unfortunately, they're never going to learn their lesson, because all these Nintendo fanboys will just create every excuse under the sun to go and buy a goddamn console. All because they want to play a subpar version of Mario Kart that, let's be honest, is not as great as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Let's be fair here. And let's be objective. Mario Kart World is not that great of a game. Just not. Okay? So, that being said, that's all I can really talk about when it comes to gaming. So a couple other things that I want to cover that I've either missed out or really barely talked about on X, because most of the time I just really speak on X. I don't really make a video about it, and now I'm kind of wanting to do that. So I'm not gonna get into the whole SAG-AFTRA thing in great detail, because I already did my kind of coverage on X, and some of my posts were covered in Hero Hey and Paper Bag Boys videos. And RevX Desu has also been covering it. Various people have been covering it and doing a much better job at covering it than I have. So I want them to have that moment for them. I don't really feel like I need to contribute enough to that, but I have noticed SAG-AFTRA as a whole, throughout this whole debacle, the whole union versus union thing, the Global Rule 1, the myth number 10, all the lies of SAG-AFTRA, their mafia-like behavior, and really the bad behavior of all these disgusting, despicable voice actors who just attack their fellow voice actors and attack gamers in general who just don't see eye to eye to them. And now that SAG-AFTRA's strike is ended, unfortunately, that hasn't ended when it comes to Hoyoverse games, because now it's the collective work refusal that these voice actors are trying to force Hoyoverse into signing, which we all know that they are not going to sign, because the whole purpose is to turn Genshin Impact and any other Hoyoverse game into a union project. They are not union projects, they are non-union projects, and they're always going to remain a non-union game, because the company, Hoyoverse, is a Chinese company, and it is illegal in their country to participate in anything union related. Yes, people pointed out that they are technically part of a union in China, but you also have to understand that the union they're part of in China is something that's forced upon them by the CCP and not something of choice that they chose themselves. So you can't really make an argument that it's the same thing as SAG-AFTRA or FICOR or whatever other union is out there for voice acting. It just does not work that way. And they are legally bound to not get involved in other unions outside of China. I can't fucking say China correctly. But yeah, these voice actors just don't understand it. And when you put that into question and really give them that information, they act like we don't know anything. And you know what? They're afraid to think that way. But unfortunately, we're operating on reality and they are not, because they are just in it to get what they want out of it instead, and just create a bad reputation for the industry as a whole here in America. And right now, UK is highly sought after for English voice acting. So yeah, that's it when it comes to SAG-AFTRA. And then the final thing I'm really going to talk about before I get to my future plans is the whole thing with Alyssa Mercante and Alanah Peirce. I'm not really going to get into detail, obviously. I mean, that's kind of been a pattern in this video, is I'm not going to get into a lot of detail. I'm just expressing my thoughts based on what I'm dealing with. But I've noticed a lot of things when it comes to the coverage of these two individuals. There's a lot of channels that do it justice in terms of what the research is in their videos. But if you guys want to, if you guys haven't already and you want to see like the best coverage when it comes to these people, there are a few, but I'm gonna list a couple individuals in regards to both of these people. So I'm gonna recommend Smash JT and Nobody Has Spoken. They have done a phenomenal job in coverage of both of these people, and I'll have links to their channels down below if you guys can check them out. They have really good videos on those two people in particular, so hey, give them a watch and support them, give them likes and subscribes if you do like their videos. So yeah, unfortunately this is going to be it for the video. So to wrap up, I'm going to really discuss some future plans going forward. Now obviously it's been a year since I've made a video. Things have changed over that period of time. So I stopped making videos for about a year. I mainly just did it to take a break, but I also just lost passion. And I really have been developing a interest in returning. And then Nobody Has Spoken inspired me to make a much more bigger impact on it, because I didn't really want to pull the trigger just yet, and he inspired me to pull the trigger. So yeah, that's what's going to happen. Is from here on out, I'm going to be making some videos. Whether it's going to be hard for me to really figure out what kind of videos I really want to make, because I don't want to pump out random fucking videos that pop out of my mind, like how Smash and Nobody does when they do daily content, because they do a lot of reporting. I'm not really reporting on anything. because I don't think that's the kind of content I want to really cover. I'll have discussions um, with other creators or in private in regards to things like Alyssa, for example. Um, but I don't want to make videos about them. Or really, I don't want to make videos in terms of reporting, because my interest is not reporting. And I really don't know what my interest is in terms of content. However, I do have a lot of ideas going on that I don't want to talk about just yet. And I'm thinking about executing them. It's just a matter of um, what would be appropriate for me to tackle based on my interest on covering it. I guess stay tuned on that. I'll if you want to get a like update on my plans as I develop them further, you can always go to my X account, which I'll link down below as well. As for that, I'm gonna be 100% committed to returning and making video content. I don't know the timeline yet. I don't know the content yet, but be sure to check my X account if you want updates on said situation. And yeah, that about wraps it up. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Who knows, if you did, you didn't. Give it a like if you like it, give it a dislike if you dislike it. Subscribe if you enjoy this video and expect more videos to come. So until then, that'll be it, everybody. Take care and have a great day. This has been Alucard. Peace.